Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Matthew and today we're doing another figure comparison. Today we're doing a figure comparison based on the NECA Godzilla 2014 original, well one of the at least the earlier iterations versus one of the more later reiterations. Now, I want to make it clear that yes, I did compare these mildly in the review to this guy. However, I didn't really do much of a good job analyzing the two figures, so I thought I'd go ahead throw these two in a video together. And well, here we are. So I need to make everyone aware that I cannot exactly pinpoint which iterations of these figures are from which production run, because let's be honest, NECA is very, very selective over like how they do their figures and what they actually like will reissue, because it's abundantly clear that even if the figure has the same mold, it won't come out the same. Like say, for example, if a figure comes in from 2018 they make, and then they decide to reissue in 2022, that won't be the same figure necessarily. It'll still be branded the same figure, but it won't be the same figure, if you understand what I'm saying. That applies to the 2014 NECA, where before they lost the license, they reissued pretty much all of them in their poster box packaging and gave them a bit more of like a bit of more oomph with the paint. And that's basically what we're going to be talking about here. I originally had bought this one in the summer of 20 or sorry, the winter of 2016, uh, and I bought this one from a lot not too long ago, and I don't exactly know when this was originally purchased, but it seems to be a much more later release, judging from the way it's painted. So let's go ahead and analyze these two figures. Starting off with the sculpt and paint of both figures, I think it's abundantly clear that the original, which this one was my original from 2016, it's abundantly clear that this one is still rather holds up. It's got a nice like base black paint job and has some kind of like orange blue hues in the mix of the plastic, which looks really good. Kind of has a much more duller, kind of almost olive yellow eye paint scheme with a very dry or kind of mellow looking black iris. And especially like with the teeth, they are painted but just not as like thoroughly. Maybe over the years I scuffed the teeth and I'm just like being a total goofball about it. But for what the paint is left there, it's certainly not the best white compared to this one. But as for the tongue, it is definitely like really purple, and I really like how it's painted. And the gums just kind of like blend all together. It's mostly the same color, even though it's not like that's obviously darker than this the gums on the top are. But it looks mainly consistent, which I do like the consistency. The reissue version has a brighter like like kind of eyeball itself. It has the eyes a bit more painted, a more thicker black. I think this is what I meant to say. That looks more like a thinner shade of paint than this one does. The blue looks a little consistent with the head on this one compared to this one. A little bit more of a wash this go around, and the mouth is obviously done a lot better. I'm gonna be honest, because we actually had the membrane, even though it's not necessarily like it's done on the monster, it's where it's part of the joint. It's actually painted a different color versus on the original. It's kind of faded into the gums, and you can honestly can't really tell it's there. But on the reissue, you can tell it's perfectly there. And on the reissue, the painted teeth are done a lot better, and even like the tongue, it just clashes a lot better than this one does. Even though the gums, I will say again, painted rather identically. It's just done a lot better on the reissue. And going even down to the neck pieces here. The neck on the front has a decent like brown olive yellow wash, and it does look the part. It gets the job done and it looks really good. And even comes back down here with the more like blue wash that you get on the top and then like the black fins, and it does look rather swell. versus the reissue on the NECA 2014, where they have a bit more of a blue wash. Like it's more of a blue wash rather than in the plastic, and it just pops a lot more. The only downside I'll say is that the original has a more defined neck color scheme, but the gills on these ones are just a lot better painted and they actually look, you know, at least somewhat better. And they're more highlighted, like where the gills actually meet, versus this one where it relies more on the sculpt. And you might also notice that this one's a little less glossy. It still has gloss, but it's a lot less glossy than the original one is. And I think that's honestly like a take it or leave it kind of stance. Moving on down to the torsos of each figure, I think it's abundantly clear that the reissue just, well, actually let's put a little bit of a cap on this one. The original has again more of that like blue wash that's seeping on the shoulders and the arms, and has pretty glossy nails, like a pretty good finish, almost like they actually used nail polish on this guy. Wouldn't be the first time I've done it. But what really I want to pay more attention is at the chest. The chest is done in a very kind of like dry brushy way, and it honestly looks more like a wash than just blatantly putting it on there. And while I do like the look of it, over the years it just kind of reminds me just how like little paint there is really, because you can definitely see that this is definitely like a dry brush across the chest. It's not done bad at all, but then you get to here where they do feature like more of that dry brushing, the wash on this guy, like more of that paint scheme, but they also carry it through the chest and it just looks a lot better. Like this looks like a Godzilla who got down and dirty versus this one who got more of like in the ocean. And maybe that's what you can chalk it down to. But really, this is just done so much better uh, than this is, and it even kind of bleeds down to the legs and a bit of the shoulder here. I mean, you can kind of see it when you move the shoulder joint. They didn't paint like get through, but again, it still looks fine, even like down here a little bit. But again, I think it's honestly fine with the way they did it. And speaking of the legs, you can definitely see that again. What I was talking about is just like the leg wash is on here like a lot dirtier on the sides, like interior, versus here where there's basically none of that. Like not even that carries through. I mean, there's some of it that kind of carries through, but not a lot of it. And you can definitely see like one of them is just a lot more glossier than the other, and it almost looks again like this one came out of water, this one got down and dirty in the city. However, what I think both figures don't really do all that well is the dorsal plates. I know I've always praised them, but over the years I kind of realized how soft these dorsal plates are in comparison to the others. Don't get me wrong, they're still spiky, but I really feel like with the reissue, this could have been like a perfect chance to like recast it and do like a bit bigger and like more spikier plates. But it ends up coming across as a little bit like soft and cheap. I know it's a $20 figure, but like hot dog. And last but not least, the tail. And I've already covered it in the review, but the dry brushing on the tail is actually done pretty disappointingly on the new one, because like it just kind of stops and it doesn't even carry throughout here. Well, it's hard to see on the original, but there is somewhat of a wash that kind of carries throughout the whole entirety of the bottom of the tail, which I do like. And really, that's the only difference aside from like, yeah, that's basically the only difference aside from like the color of it all.